The fourth and final example of a case where markets can tend to have problems is what we call information problems. Okay, so what do we mean by this? Well, information problems arise when buyer and seller have different information, or I should say, it shouldn't be have, it should be buyer and seller know different information about a product information about a product, and this difference in information causes a beneficial exchange to not take place. Okay, so what do I mean by this? Okay, so let's kind of do as an example. Suppose you were interested in buying a used car, okay? So you want to buy a used car, okay? All right, so you want to buy a used car, and suppose you're in luck. I have a used car to sell you, okay? And suppose we could make sure there was no information problems. This used car would be perfect for you, right? So it's exactly the car you're looking for, okay? So you want to buy a used car, and it's a good car, and would be beneficial for you to buy it. Would be beneficial for you to purchase. Okay, so what's the problem? Okay. Well, suppose a year ago you bought a used car and it was a big piece of junk, right? And you bought it from somebody you trusted, right? So you've been burned, right? And so you're looking around for a used car, and I show up, and I look really trustworthy, but the last person you bought a crummy car from was also trustworthy, right? And so the information problem arises where it's my car. I know it's a good car. I've taken good care of it, right? I know my car is good. But you don't trust me. You don't trust me. And you think my car is junk. And you think my car is junk. Okay? So that's what we mean further up here where we say buyer and seller know different information about a product, right? I know my car is good. I've taken care of it. I've given it its oil changes. I've had all the maintenance done, right? But you've just been burned. So you think I'm a shyster and my car is a piece of junk, and so you're hesitant to buy it, right? And you might say, you know what, forget it. I don't want to deal with this. I'm not buying your car, right? I don't trust you, right? So that is an instance where the information that's in my head, what I know about the car, is different from the information that you have about my particular car. And in this instance, it prevents a sale from taking place that would have actually been beneficial for you, okay? So that's what we mean by information problems. Now, information problems are present in a lot of different markets, especially healthcare markets, right? So when an insurance company wants to provide healthcare coverage to somebody, or say if it's also life insurance, right? You want to know how healthy that person is, right? If I'm going to insure someone for their health care, right? Suppose they have terrible habits, right? And they're always getting sick, right? then me as a healthcare provider, I'm having to pay out money all the time for their healthcare benefits, right? Or if it's a life insurance policy, right? And this person happens to be a skydiver and do all kinds of other risky things, right? Then the probability that this person's going to die in a skydiving accident is quite high, and I'm going to have to shell out millions of dollars to his or her family, right? So there's all kinds of markets: healthcare, life insurance, used car markets, where these information problems can occur. Okay. All right. So if information problems can prevent beneficial sales from taking place, how do we try to solve some of these problems? Well, the marketplace actually does quite a bit to solve these problems, right? So let's go back to the example of buying and selling a used car, right? Many of you have probably had to experience this, and there are a bunch of companies out there now that have information on used cars, right? There's Carfax, right? You can go and you can look up the accident and maintenance history of a car, right? There's all kinds of websites, right, that have ratings. Websites with ratings of businesses, right? So you can find out if that used car lot is run by a bunch of shysters or run by good people, right? So you've got that. You can look that up online, right? There's customer reviews, there's feedback, right? You can look on Yelp for all kinds of different businesses, right? And if we're talking about buying a used car, you can always take the car to a mechanic, right? There's lots of different ways we have to kind of check someone's reputation, see if it's a good car, find out if you're going to get screwed or not, look up reviews, right? There's reviews everywhere on Google and Yelp and all kinds of different places, right? So there's a lot of ways that the market very quickly solves these problems, right? Now, there are a couple instances where we use government to try to solve some of these information problems, right? So we have licensing, right? So ways that we prevent or try to limit shysters from providing medical care. Well, you got to be licensed. You got to go to med school. You got to do residency. You got to pass your boards to be a doctor. Or nurses, you have to do similar things, or nurse practitioners, or physician's assistants. There's all this licensing we do to make sure you're, competent to practice in some of these fields, right? And, sometimes incompetent people may get through. Nothing's perfect, right? So we have licensing, certification, right? A lot of times mechanics will be certified to show that they're, competent and so forth, okay? Now, when it comes to food and drugs, right, the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, the Food and Drug Administration requires information labels, right? You know how when you're in the store and you can flip a product around and look at the nutritional information, right? Or if you're getting some drugs, some prescription drugs, right? It's supposed to tell you the side effects and the active and inactive ingredients and all these things, right? Labeling is one of the ways the government tries to solve some of these information problems, okay? Okay, so that's our fourth example of problems that can crop up in markets. And again, just like with the other examples, you see that markets a lot of times can solve these problems, and sometimes we use government to solve the problem, right? And so what we'll kind of move to in the next video is going through to talk about, well, what are the pros and cons of using markets or government to deal with some of these problems?